If I could have everyone, yeah, shh. If we can bring the meeting to order, please. Prior to the open session, council met for a closed meeting, and it was moved by Councillor Borneman and seconded by Council. Can we seem to have a little bit of noise in the hallway, if that could be calmed down? Okay, thank you. So prior to the open session, council met for a closed meeting. It was moved by Councillor Borneman and seconded by Councillor McCann. It was pursuant to Section 239, 2 and 3 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, C25 as amended. Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound moved to a meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to B, personnel matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, conflict of interest opinion. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for municipal or local board purpose. Potential property disposal to potential property purchases. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, municipal election court application update, and contractor services. F, the receiving of advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, municipal election court application update, conflict of interest opinion, servicing agreement. And N, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, potential property purchase, and boundary negotiations. And that was carried. Okay. May I have a mover and seconder for the agenda, please? Councillor Keith and Councillor Bachman. The council agenda for August 13th, 2019 be approved as circulated. I'm going to suggest that it be as amended because I know there's going to be changes throughout this process. I know one deputation already, the one that's second is going to go first tonight, and then the second one will go. Second will go first, and the first one will go second. So, all in favor of the agenda? Any disclosure, pecuniary interest, or the general nature thereof? I have one. It's on item 10.4.2, and it's has to do with the McNabb Lumber and a lease arrangement. And as I work for Parry Sound Home Hardware, which is not affiliated with McNabb Lumber, but Home Hardware Corporation, I'm declaring a conflict on that one, just to be sure. All right, next, we have a public meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to take a few minutes to hold a public meeting to hear any interested persons with regard to concurrent official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment under section 22 and 34 of the Planning Act. May I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Horn, Councillor Burden. We would now adjourn the regular meeting and declare the public meeting open. All in favor? That's carried. Ms. Johnson, can you explain how the public was notified of the concurrent official plan zoning bylaw amendments being OPA 3 and Z 1906 YMCA of Simcoe, Muskoka, and Wickman?
Yes, notice was given by prepaid first-class mail to the required prescribed agencies and property owners within 120 meters as per regulations, posted on the property, and was placed on the town's website.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Algie, could you explain the purpose of the proposed zoning amendments?
Certainly. The applicant has applied for an official plan amendment to redesignate the property from public open space to rural residential. They've also applied to rezone the lands from open space to rural residential as well to implement the official plan amendment. The legal description of the property is a portion of the lands described as part of Lot 29, Concession 4 in the former township of McDougall, but now in the town of Parry Sound. The lands affected are a forested area at the south south end of what is known as the YMCA lands at the bottom of Smith Crescent is approximately 1 acre area of forested lands south of the baseball diamond.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, does anyone wish to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? If so, please come forward, identify yourself by name, and give your address. Okay, all right. So next, does anyone wish to speak in opposition of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? Again, come forward, please identify yourself by name and give your address.
Want me to sit here?
Yes, please.
Okay. People, if you can't hear me, would you let me know, please, if I don't speak clearly enough? Mr. Mayor and councillors, my name is June Smith. Vern and I live at 40 Smith Crescent in a house built by his family 60 years ago. We are separated from the open space in the proposed amendment by the driveway on Smith Crescent going into the YMCA property. We believe that this council and the town of Parry Sound are concerned about the environment. Parry Sound joined the National Partners for Climate Protection. On March 19th, this council had a discussion about the use of single-use plastic bottles. Recently, a group of volunteers cleaned up the shoreline of the Georgian Bay in town. All of these things show that they believe small environmental acts do matter. From melting permafrost in our north, to ninja rainstorms in our cities, to the shifting shores on our coastline, we have seen the evidence. Climate change is here. Climate change is real. The open space that is in the amendment proposal contains wetlands. Wetlands are a critical part of our environment and have a complex ecosystem. They provide habitat and food for animals, and just last week I saw a deer and her family eating berries in this wetland. Wetlands absorb pollutants and improve water quality. Wetlands function as a natural sponge that trap and slowly release water. Our road has been flooded many times, but without the slow release of water, we could have been flooded. Scientists now know that atmospheric maintenance is an additional wetland function. Wetland plants and spongy soil store carbon instead of the carbon being released into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Thus, wetlands also moderate global climate. To my surprise, when I was doing research, 70% of the original wetlands in southern Ontario have disappeared. Scientists commissioned by the government of Ontario have been trying for 10 years to try to restore them, but so far have been very unsuccessful. We must save our wetlands for ourselves and for future generations. The main reason why wetlands are disappearing at an alarming rate is urban development. A former council was approached to approve a soccer field to the north of the YMCA a few years ago. Despite strong objections by many people, it was approved. A large area of wetlands disappeared. I go by there daily when I go for my walk, and last week stopped to see the soccer field. There was a chain blocking the entrance. It hasn't been used in at least 3 years. In front of me was an empty field with long grass weeds and wildflowers. The wetland was long gone, and as I walked onto it, I knew it couldn't be reclaimed for anything because underneath the grass is gravel and more gravel. Now we have one more open space to the south of the YMCA, which they wish to change to rural residential. This amendment would affect Vern and myself. We also have wetlands, which even with the hot summer are still moist. The creek bed on our property is still moist from the creek flowing down through the wetlands. If this amendment is passed and open space becomes residential, the creek and wetlands it contains would no longer be protected. If the creek is impacted, our wetlands could dry up. We could lose many types of vegetation, like my jack-in-the-pulpits that thrive in the wetlands. There is also a rock ledge on the property. If blasting is necessary, the structure of our house could be compromised. We depend on our well for our water, which has been used by the Smith family for almost 60 years, which could also be compromised. Vern and I love our home. We have lived at 40 Smith Crescent for over 20 years. We try to maintain our property without the use of chemicals and every year discover new ways to do it. The animals that are routinely seen on our property are a joy to behold. Until we moved onto this property, I had no idea how animals interacted until I watched them carefully over the years. And this winter, we did feed them, as by late December, the deer especially were so thin you could see their ribs. However, much to my amazement when watching them, it is the squirrel who always eats first, and the deer, and the ravens, and the blue jays wait until it leaves, and then they eat. It is so comical to watch. Therefore, we ask that our complaint be registered. Our house could be structurally compromised. We could, and most probably will, be flooded in the spring. Our well could be compromised, and our wetlands could dry up. We urge you to have the Wickham YMCA obtain and provide a detailed environmental assessment and engineering report which would outline the impact building on this proposal will have on the ecosystem and existing neighborhood buildings before you consider the amendment and the bylaw zoning. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
We don't ask questions during this
Okay,
particular time,
thank
but
you.
if you have a copy of what you've submitted there,
I just have one copy, but you may have it.
yes, we do need it for our records. That would
And
be
I've also
appreciated.
given you, submitted to the clerk, a copy for the, everybody in council, and I had it put in their mailboxes, a one-page outlining the basis, and then I just embellished on
You've
them.
elaborated, okay.
Okay.
So if we can have that, that would be greatly appreciated. We can make a copy of it and then give you back the original if you so wish.
To whom may I
To the
give it?
clerk, please.
My writing is terrible.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to the amendment? No? Okay, thank you. Mr. Elgie, have there been any letters received as a result of the notice?
Yes, there has, Your Worship. There is one letter of opposition so far submitted by Vern and Juice Smith. I won't go over it in too much detail because we just heard the basis of it, and it was dated July 29th, 2019.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. That concludes the concurrent official plan amendment zoning bylaw amendment. Objections to the passing of either the amendments will be received by the clerk within 20 days from the date such notice is given, which objections will be forwarded to the local planning appeal tribunal. If an appeal is submitted, the appellant has not provided counsel with an oral or written submission before the passing of the bylaw, the local planning appeal tribunal may choose to dismiss the appeal. Thank you, and may I have a mover and seconder to declare the public meeting closed? Councillor Borneman and Councillor McCann. All in favor? That's carried. The public meeting is closed. Okay, give you that. All right. May I have a mover and seconder for the minutes, please? Councillor McCann, Councillor Bachman, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held July 16th, 2019 be approved as circulated. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor then? That's carried. Questions of staff? Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for Mr. Brown. And I'm just wondering if the matter can be looked into. I've received information that on James Street, where there is a storm drain, almost across from the parking lot, so it would be near the theater and Country Gourmet. There's a storm drain on that side there. And I understand for some time now, at intervals, and one time, it was actually when there had been no rain, when we had that dry spell back a bit, that there's a real smell that comes out of that storm drain. But when we had the dry spell, the water was flowing through it. And the concern is that maybe something is hooked up wrong or whatever, but that it seems that when there is the smell, sometimes because it's either early morning or it's evening, by the time a few people notice it, staff may not be available. So I'm wondering if this could be investigated further, please.
Through your worship, excuse me, we have had some concerns about that, and we've had staff go at different times of the day, and it's been very difficult to track down because it showed up behind on Miller Street near the liquor store in the parking lot there. The smell in front of the old Economy Fair, or on the other side. So we're not sure where it's coming from. Staff are concerned that there may be an illegal sanitary sewer connection into the storm sewer. So what we've done is we've hired a contractor to come in with a camera and what's called a lateral camera. And I'm hoping that he'll be here either this week or next week. And they're going to go in there early in the morning, and they're going to run their camera up the storm sewer. And then they'll be able to shoot their lateral camera up the laterals just to see if we can find if there's an illegal connection, because we're really kind of baffled where it's coming from right now. But we are investigating it.
Sorry, Councillor Keith, go ahead.
So I'd just like to have an idea for that procedure to occur. How long does it take roughly for when they're using the camera? And when you say say early in the morning, what are we talking? Are we talking 6 o'clock or 7, 8 o'clock? Rough, like. Thanks.
Through your worship, we'd like to get in there early before the traffic starts up and before people park on the street, so we can gain access to the storm sewer. So we're hoping for 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And it'll take about a week or two to get the results back.
Councillor Borneman?
I'm hoping Mr. Brown can provide us and the public, it's been a while, what's the state of the union with Wabick and Isabella Street, and are we confident of getting these things cleaned up before Mother Nature turns on us?
Through your worship, I'll start with Isabella Street. Everything's going very well there. The contractor's doing an excellent job. We're hoping to see curb and gutter being laid out this week and poured next week, curb gutter and sidewalk next week, and then hopefully the following week, base course of asphalt. There's a retaining wall that has to be built near the bottom of the hill, part way up the hill on the right-hand side as you're going down. That has to be done after the curb and gutter is poured. So you'll probably see that being done late next week or early the following week. So as far as Isabella goes, I'm hoping that we'll at least have base course of asphalt, curb gutter, sidewalks, all the underground infrastructure done by the end of August, weather permitting and contractor permitting, because they have to rely on subcontractors as well. With regards to the PXO crossing at the William Street and Isabella, that came to council a couple of weeks ago and it was approved. We're still waiting for a final price. We're hoping that gets in early September. So I'm confident that the work on Isabella will be done by the end of this year. With regards to Wabick Street, things are going very well there. Again, the same contractor is doing an excellent job in that area. We've got basically 2 crews running up there right now. They're doing the top end as well as the lower end near the Coast Guard. They're at the phase 3 now, so they're working quite hard at getting pipe in the ground as well as getting the road ready. The curb and gutter has been poured on the lower end of Wabick Street and sidewalk, and some landscaping has been done. I'm hoping to see the asphalt for that base course before the end of August. Second course for Prospect Street will be done probably at the same time. So once they finish all that, they're still continuing up the hill. I'm confident that they'll have base course done of the whole job by the end of this year, weather permitting, subcontractor permitting. We've had excellent weather. I'm not going to complain about that. And they've been doing a great job pushing hard through there. And the public have been very cooperative. We still have had the odd race car going through, which has caused some serious, some significant issues as far as the safety of staff goes. But it's quietened down quite a bit.
Thank you. Yes.
Job is going at the arena.
Okay.
Through your worship, the BOCC renovation project is going quite well. Everything's on time. We'll see ice in September. Last week, you saw the building being cleaned, all the interior pad, the walls were being painted. This week, we're seeing boards. It's looking bright, it's looking new, it's looking fantastic.
Councillor Bachman.
My question's for April. I just wanted to know if you can give us an update on the tree planting program that we'll be performing this year.
Through your worship, this early this summer, we did a tree assessment in a few of our parks. We had trees taken down in Market Square as well as Vaughan Williams. The practice is you don't plant trees in the summer, you plant trees in the very early spring or late fall. You will be seeing those trees replanted in the late fall.
And approximately how many?
Per current policy, 2 per every tree taken down.
Thank you.
Any more questions, staff? Nope. Okay. All right. Correspondence, Ms. Johnson.
Yes, Your Worship, we have a number of items of correspondence. The first two are from Peter Scully. The first from him was a request for traffic calming sign on Church Street at about McMurray. It was referred to the Director of Public Works for follow-up. And since that letter and the referral, we received another letter from Peter Scully with appreciation for the traffic calming sign to be installed on Church Street at McMurray. The third letter is from Barbara O'Brien. She's advocating for a splash pad. That letter has been circulated to members of council and to the manager of Parks and Recreation. The next letter is from the Canadian Union of Public Employees with a request to proclaim October 24th as Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. That issue is covered by a resolution under item 8.1 on the agenda. The next letter is from David Coles, the chair of the Downtown Business Association, advocating for reinstatement of the Waterfront Advisory Committee. That letter has been circulated to members of the council and the CIO for consideration. The next item is also from Mr. Coles of the DBA with a request for the town's assistance in helping to keep downtown clean. This letter has been circulated to members of the council, to the Director of Public Works and the Manager of Parks and Recreation. And the third in the series, also from David Coles, chair of the DBA, is a request for the town's assistance in addressing safety in the downtown area, including an invitation to members of council to participate in a walkabout tomorrow evening to go over some of these safety issues. That's been circulated to members of council, and we're aware that some are available to attend that walkabout. The next item is from David Sweetnam, the Executive Director of Georgian Bay Forever. The letter is in response to several council questions that were raised at Georgian Bay Forever's June 4th, 2019 deputation regarding phragmites and invasive species funding, Parry Sound deployments of the autonomous underwater vehicle, and data sharing from shoreline cleanups. So in summary, Mr. Sweetman said that with respect to helping Parry Sound with invasive phragmites, GBF has indicated it has provided education on this matter and provides in this letter contacts of persons and organizations best equipped to deal with land-based phragmites. With respect to the deployment of the autonomous underwater vehicle, or AUV, Georgian Bay Forever notes that it will do its first Georgian Bay project this summer or fall at the Franklin Island wetlands. And lastly, with respect to the shoreline cleanups, Georgian Bay Forever noted that it has or will be collaborating with local groups on 3 occasions this summer, and at the end of the summer, will be analyzing the data on trash picked up and will share the results with council. The next letter is from Indigenous Services Canada regarding a public consultation on future operations of Wasauksing Swing Bridge. Indigenous Services Canada is holding a public consultation meeting on Wednesday, August 21st, with a meet and greet at 5 p.m. followed by a 6 p.m. presentation by the Government of Canada and an opportunity for Q&A. This public consultation meeting on Wednesday, August 21st is held at the Bobby Orr Community Centre. Comments from the public will be received and considered by Indigenous Services Canada until September 30th of this year. The next item is from Michelle Sims with a request for a 4-way stop at James William Rosetta intersection. This item has been circulated to council members for consideration on a direction and to the Director of Public Works. And the last item is from Shawniga First Nation with an invitation to their annual powwow this weekend, August 17th and 18th, and in particular, an invitation to include the town flag in the grand entry. And this has also been circulated to members of council.
Very good. I know I'm in Ottawa, so I can't attend, so just send them my regrets, please. Okay, so we come to the deputations portion of tonight's meeting. Deputations are held to a maximum of 10 minutes each, including questions of clarification from council. Presentations and deputations are also subject to the same rules of conduct as members of council, that no one shall speak disrespectfully or use offensive words or insulting expressions against any member of council, staff, or another member of the public. Please speak clearly, approximately 1 foot directly in front of the microphone. So our first deputation tonight now will be Linda West, Hands Off Our Trees. So before you begin, just press the microphone button on the face of the... Yep. Oh, it didn't come on? There is... Okay, there is a button on the side, near the back, on the... what? Right side, yeah. There you go. You're locked and loaded.
Good. They're in their hands.
You got them.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor McGarvey, councillors and staff. Thank you for taking our presentation here tonight. We are requesting that the open space zoning be kept in the area just west of the fitness trail and sort of south of the Salt Dock Road. Parry Sound takes its bragging rights, and this is information taken right off of our website about amazing places that you will see. The moment you see it, you'll know it. It'll take your breath away. These places connect us with nature, and our Rotary Algonquin Regiment Waterfront Trail is listed there as one of these places that takes your breath away. The town has an excellent and I've read a few of these, excellent master plan, and it was only completed in 2015. It is well written, it's an easy read, it's got wonderful maps. It shows how this trail is the most significant feature of the town trail system. It demonstrates how everything will connect now and in the future, whether it's park to park, or whether it's with our sidewalks, or whether it's with bike loops. It shows it all. It's extraordinarily well done. And this master plan was done through consultation with the town. It had a committee, it had surveys, and it had a one-day 8 to 80 day that really looked at how the trail was used from the people who are very young to people who are very old. And the people who wrote this plan up, that the consultants talked about this trail, which I'll just call the waterfront trail for now. Its pristine nature and its naturalistic qualities need to be preserved. They weren't recommending any changes. Our own website also talks about how the economy is impacted by having our hiking trails. That the very ironic thing is that this wonderful forest that sits that will be destroyed sits right behind the UNESCO biosphere sign. It sits right in behind that. And once again, our own website talks about it being a natural playground. And within the master plan, the economy tourism is talked about it. And I can tell you from being on the trail a lot, some of the time to get signatures, but other times, we're just out there walking with our dog or running with our dog, that you see tourists there all the time. I've talked in this week to people from Israel and Africa and Australia, and people from the United States off of this boat who all are visiting our fair town, and then going out on to flights and visiting restaurants and doing all sorts of amazing things as they visit us, and leaving some of their money. The other interesting thing is that the Salt Dock Road to Bay Street is heavily used, and it's exactly, and 3.21869 is exactly 2 miles. And that's an interesting number because a lot of the research is done on American research is done on what 2 miles does for your health, and it's amazingly good. It's kind of where that breaking point where everything starts swinging in your favor. If you walk 2 miles a day, you're going to see your blood pressure get lowered, the diabetes reduced, your moods improved. Every indicator starts improving. Even dementia is reduced. So it's an amazing, and Stephen Heder has sent in a much better letter that will outline all of that for you. And once again, if we want to focus on mental health, walking in the outdoors, the combination of the fresh air and the exercise really helps improve your moods and reduce depression. But if we see this development in itself is not likely to improve our moods, our mental health, or any of the physical attributes that are needed for health. It's much more likely to make us feel the heat, because we right now have a canopy over us as we walk through that part of the trail, protecting us from the UV rays in the summer, and it feels much cooler under the canopy. We also, in the winter, are protected from the winds by the trees, so we feel the cold a lot less. And I fear that people walking from Bay Street, when they come into open area, will just stop. They'll just stop, turn around, and go back, and they won't get their full 2 miles or 3.2 kilometers. Right now, that open space is by some people being used as part of that rugged trail. It actually, if you, oh, I do have a pointer, haha. So if you look across from the, where they're going to take down the trees, you can see that upper rugged trail coming out. And if you just turn around, then you can see where you can get into this open space. And the open space has a pathway that's tall enough for me to get through, but not others. And the deer, we all get through there very easily. And there's places for the deer to lie down and sleep. And as you move through, on the northwest side, there's a bay of rocks, a cove of rocks that the deer can lay down at night. And I'm told by the people who live near there that there's a lot of deer that use this protection. And then you can look up the other side. So you're really in a valley. You can look up the other side and you can see Beacon View, being able to look down into this. And if you look at, this happens to be an aerial picture nicely provided by Taylor that shows that actual pathway all the way through there. And you can see how, so this is the fitness trail and this is the Salt Dock Road. So you can see how the deer can come through here. This is actually a rock crop. It's on a time of the year where the leaves are off. So, but you can see that that trail is not used. It's used a lot. I understand that there's a lot of other kinds of fox and lynx and, what's that? Otters. And then the people who live there would be able to give you a broader list. And we understand that the forest this year is really heavily seeded, which is really good for feeding a lot of the animals. So this is another picture that Taylor provided that shows just where the outline of where of what they're requesting to go from open space to high density. And they're not only requesting that, but they're wanting variances so they can encroach on the trail also. There's a picture of the building and the parking. So all of those trees will be consumed. The other really frightening thing is we're being told by people who have already put down payments on to the some of this property that they're being promised an open view, that they're being promised a treeless view. So there's a whole lot of trail rumors out there, and maybe you can confirm or deny some of them. But that's been told to us by more than one person, that the view that these trees are supposed to go away, and in their picture the trees do go away. Look at where the trees are left. Those are trees that are not existing right now. I take it that would be planted, but there's no plan for trees. This is town space, and in this there's no plan for trees, and no plan for trees on their property. I don't know what's happening on the west side of the trail.
You have about 2 minutes.
What's that?
You have about 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're going to make it. So what we'd like to understand is, what is the big picture? So many communities are trying to achieve exactly what we have. Our trail is rated very, very highly by both the websites that do this, and I can't remember the name of the website, but anyhow, the trail is rated 4.5 out of 5, and we have a thriving natural waterfront trail. I can tell you, I've traveled the world, I've walked trails all over, and this trail is friendly. Everybody talks to everybody. Everybody knows everybody's dogs' names. Everybody welcomes the visitors. It's a very friendly trail. And we really, really want you to go back, look at the master trail plan. It is excellent. And we thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. And we've got the copy of your, thank you. We do have a meeting we have to get along with, so I
Okay.
appreciate your deputation.
Can I add, because I got one more minute, can I tell you that we've got a petition with 651 signatures so far?
Okay.
And I do walk that trail every day because that's what the surgeon told me 4 weeks ago after my surgery, that I should be out there.
Okay, thank you. Our next deputation is, now, I'll give you an opportunity, a minute to clear if you want to, but our next deputation is very interesting. Vince Kilchecki from Chief Operating Officer, and Jennifer Monipat from Lakeland Holdings with regard to the Net Zero Community Project. Welcome.
We should get set it up here.
While you're setting up, I guess we're going to let some people leave, so. Yeah. Well. Okay. Press the button on the front and you should be ready to go.
Thank you very much for your time. Oh, can you hear me? Thank you very much for your time this evening. My name is Jennifer Morpati. I'm the Advanced Planning and Communication Lead at Lakeland Holding. I'm here with Vince Kilchecki, Chief Operating Officer for Lakeland Holding, and Cedric Tai from Opus One Solutions, one of our partners with this project. We're here this evening to provide Council with a little bit more information pertaining to 2 of Lakeland's newest exciting, innovative projects. Project Speedia, smart, proactive, enabled energy distribution, intelligently, efficiently, and responsive. Project Democracy, dispatchable energy market, optimized, constrained, real-time, aggregated system interface. Both projects have been announced locally or internationally. On July 23rd, Lakeland's Project Speedia was announced by Parliamentary Secretary Paul Lafive. We'll go into more detail about that project on the next slide. Project Democracy is in the midst of being formally announced in Canada and has already been announced in the United Kingdom. Project Speedia and Democracy have numerous partners. The key partners are shown on the slide up on the screen: the Town of Parry Sound, NRCan, and Opus One Solutions. As I mentioned, Cedric Tai from Opus One Solutions is here to answer any questions with regards to anything technical. Both projects will endeavor to review grid infrastructure constraints in the Town of Parry Sound and offer innovation solutions that will benefit the Town of Parry Sound community and beyond. So Project Speedia, it focuses on developing a strategy to alleviate the constraint transformer while meeting the town of Parry Sound's goal towards a net zero smart community. The project focuses on the following components while meeting the project objectives that you can see on this slide. Reducing the constraint on the TS. The 2017 long-term energy plan specified a number of constraints, one of which was identified in Lakeland service area, the Parry Sound district. GHG emission reductions. We're looking at reducing the GHG by 175 kilowatts of hot water tank controls, 21 kilowatt reduction in peak demand by controlling EV charging units, 2,100 kilowatt addition to system and water power, and a 500 kilowatt addition of solar. Reducing GHG and by adding local distributed generation and reducing the requirement for gas peaking plants and locally produced energy. Increased system flexibility and renewable energy. There's economic and social benefits, increased reliability and resiliency. On to you.
Me?
Yeah.
Ready? Oh, this comes up one at a time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's,
Can you
oh,
sit
yeah,
with the
there's,
mic?
there's a lot of different components to Speedier. So there's a 2 megawatt hour battery that's going to be located at probably one of our substations. There's a 650 kilowatt solar array as part of the first phase. We're going to get customers involved. We're going to get people in town involved. We're looking for 50 hot water tanks that we can control. So Lakeland rents about 1,800 hot water tanks. We can control those, or we can control customer-owned tanks. And what would it allow us to do, like if we take all our tanks together, it represents 5.5 megawatts of electricity if they were all on at the same time. So being able to control when those tanks run would also allow us to reduce load and future capital in the future. We're looking for people that we can test 10 Tesla Powerwalls. So they're a battery bank that gets installed in a house inside your home and can run some circuits. It can also be dispatchable by us. So if we needed that energy on the grid at a time, then that energy can go back out. Otherwise, it could be used to run your house during a power outage. So there's many different benefits to that. It can also work to save energy during the peak times a day. Hopefully there's some people in this town that have some electric cars, because we have just a few of those that we'd like to help roll out with. So level 2 and level 3 charging stations. Level 1 is like a plug. Level 2 is like a stove plug, and level 3 is something you would see like at the hotel in town where there's Tesla's charging stations. Those are level 3 where people can charge in like 10 minutes. So level 2 would be you charge over a few hours, and level 1 is it takes like overnight or maybe a day or so to charge your car. So we're looking at getting some involvement on those. This is a pretty big program. It's known across Canada. We are going to be talking locally about it though too. So our next presentation is going to be at the Climate Action Workshop for the Global Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve in September. And in the end, we're looking at being able to incorporate new technologies onto the grid, like people can put solar on the roof or EV cars, and us being able to handle it. Because our grid was designed 100 years ago. That's the way we run electricity, is the same way that it was a long time ago. And the new technologies put on the grid now to enable our customers, we have to be able to control or tap in or utilize those assets to make sure that everything works together harmoniously, because currently it doesn't currently. So democracy, this is kind of interesting. So this is our, we started out with Parry Sound Net Zero Community, and we proposed that, I think December 2017 is, we did our final presentation. And it basically is trying to say, we're going to try and take the town's assets, so from the town hall to the arena to the wastewater and water treatment plants, and generate as much local kilowatt hours using solar or local generation to offset that entire consumption that the town uses. So that's what we were proposing. To make that work, we needed to do speedier. So we need to be able to shift load, control load, because solar generates excellent during the peak times of day, doesn't generate very much at night, and it's not really efficient in the wintertime as much as it is in the summer. So to balance it all out, we've added the tools in speedier to be able to control loads. Democracy is the monetization tool of it. So how we can get paid from the future grid. So if anyone's following what's going on in the Ontario Energy Board or the Independent Electricity System Operator, there's mechanisms for the future grid starting 2023 and beyond where they want more dispatchable generation like they do in other parts of the world. So Speedier is going to answer some of those questions, and Democracy is the monetization tool that allows us to capture and pay back maybe people that can control their hot water tanks and use demand response and being able to control some of the generation assets. So that's how they all kind of fit together. So we are doing some collaboration. So the Democracy is actually a partnership with Natural Resources Canada and the UK. What's their name?
Western Power, Kiwi Power.
Oh, sorry. No, so Western. So
Western Power
it's
Distribution.
it's with the ISO in the UK. It's very similar to the way ours runs. And then our partners over there is Western Power. So it's a power distribution company in London area of England. And Kiwi Power is our partner over there that actually has the technology, which is web-based, and the technology to allow us to control larger loads like wastewater treatment plant, water treatment plant stuff. And it's got the monetization tool, so we can connect with the ISO, get a signal, they say we'll pay you so much money, and we can respond back with that and get paid in the future network. So this hasn't really been done yet. Like, it's being worked on around the world, and that's why Canada and the UK have collaborated to try to find some of the best players in the world to make this happen. And the Lakeland came out as one of the top 3 projects in Canada, UK. We're running out of time.
You've got a few more minutes, but Councillor Borneman has a question, but we'll wait till the end.
Okay.
When you're done.
So the benefits are we're going to utilize the assets we have. We are going to be working and hopefully educating the community. We're going to be spending a lot more time in Parry Sound educating, learning, and trying to get people to understand, because there's some net benefits not only the town but to the members of the community to save energy and to reduce costs, because that's definitely a goal of Lakelands. As you can tell, we've tried to reduce rates as much as possible. We're going to be learning a lot from this, and we have to disseminate this around the world. So Parry Sound's name will be on websites in the UK and across Canada as far as what we're accomplishing, and we've already got people and players from Australia and from the States that have already contacted us and want to know how they can be part of this.
So, yep. What does this mean for the town of Parry Sound? So you can see up on the slide here, we're looking at a residential battery pilot program, water heater upgrade program, grid resiliency microgrid, and Vince spoke of the solar and the battery project, electric vehicle charge and infrastructure development, and increased community engagement, a greener community. And we're open to questions.
Yeah, on the bottom, actually, those are some of our partners on the bottom, so you can see we actually do have a wide range of people we're working with. If you look at Lakeland Power, ATCO is a utility in Alberta. They're doing a simulated project. We're the lead, and they're going to kind of follow along and see how it operates. Western Power, Kiwi, Opus One, Ryerson University is involved, Georgian College, Parry Sound. Catapult Energy is like a research group in the UK, and Mars is the Canadian version of that. AMP Energy, they came with us here to do the presentation a few years ago for that Zero Community. Savage Energy Systems, data systems, they're out of North Bay, and they store and load meter data. We need them as well. Natural Resource Canada, of course, the Lakeland holding group of companies, including Bracebridge Generation, which is actually the lead of this project.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Borneman, you had a question.
So I got a couple comments and maybe a couple questions. So Vince, as I understand this, what's precipitated this is that the transformer station, the Hydro One transformer station, is inadequate to serve future growth in the town of Parry Sound, and the cost of upgrading that is very high.
Both be $30 to $45 million.
So further, it's my recollection that the town's annual power bill is in the ballpark of $800,000 to $1 million, despite the work that was done with LEDing streetlights and such very few years ago. So that reflects about 8 to 10% of your tax bill goes to powering the town's infrastructure. The question, and I don't know if you're prepared to tell us this or how this is going to work, how is this to be paid for? How will these projects be funded over the next and the time frame under which that you expect to roll this out?
So if you notice, I didn't come here asking for money. But this is an issue because hydro bills just keep going up, and we see the bill that Lakeland Power gets with all the costs and the regulatory and the government. I mean, the bills are huge, and everything just keeps stacking on. So if a big load like a casino or data center really wanted to come to Parry Sound, we would probably have a big issue trying to connect them up because there just isn't the capacity, which prompted us to look at what can we do. So we looked at solar, and solar will be a self-funding project. So solar is something that Bracebridge Generation and AMP could invest in and get a rate of return on it while still saving the town of Parry Sound money. So we're taking somebody else's capital and reducing the cost of the town of Parry Sound. Solar assets they're guaranteed for like some of the panels are 25 years where they still produce an adequate value. So looking at the life of the system and paying it back in a reasonable amount of time that you'd make business sense of it, we can save the town money for a long period of time and while pulling a revenue out to do these other things to keep growing on the system. So the investment's going to come from third parties. It's not going to come from the town of Parry Sound. The money we've got from the government to do the research on this definitely helps accelerate it and add all the technology into it to make the solar work. Because the solar alone would give you surplus energy in the middle of the day, but not at 7 o'clock at night in the middle of the wintertime. So we're trying to balance everything and make everything kind of fit together. To answer your question, the town of Parry Sound isn't funding it. It'll be private equity.
Okay. And the federal government, right? They've put money.
So out of these projects, Speedier, we won it's $2.9 million. We have as a grant from the federal government for this. Democracy is a $3 million grant. And when we're going to be the winning project for the world, for Canada, the UK. So when that happens, there's a $1 million additional prize for the top project. Of course, there's some knowledge dissemination and some documentation that has to go out on how we made it work. But that's another $1 million, and we have some other funding that's more than potential on the way because people want to get involved in this because it's a great project. It's the future of the grid for not just Parry Sound, but everywhere. And we're going to be piling it in Parry Sound. So most of this money is going to be spent in Parry Sound. There will be people staying in your hotels, eating at your restaurants, and hanging around a little bit and trying to get this stuff done. But in the end, it's going to be privately funded, and some of the money is going to be spent here for sure.
Has Ontario Hydro been contacted to say, look, we're saving you $30 to $45 million, and maybe you could help with? I know it is good luck, but I just wondered if a letter was sent to them.
This is a conversation for another day.
Okay. All right. Very good. Yeah. Any further questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Borneman.
This is really got huge potential for the town, and it's something that we should be really grateful that Lakeland is at the table with because
exactly. Thank you. Okay, I am going to ask council's indulgence, if they're good with this, if we can move item 10.4.1 up before we get into the rest of the agenda. And all in favor of that? Okay, very good. Thank you. So, moved by Councillor Horn and seconded by Councillor Backman, that bylaw number 2019-6949, being a temporary use bylaw to amend bylaw number 2004-4653, the zoning bylaws amended for 1 College Drive, Canadore College Board of Governors, and Conseil Scolaire Public du Nord-Est de l'Ontario, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. So moved by Councillor Horn and seconded by Councillor Backman that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, right from the very beginning, I've been against the idea of the French school moving into the Canadore Parry Sound campus. I want to be very clear, as I think I can speak for everyone here, is that we're not against a French school coming to town. In fact, we welcome that as we look forward with a vision of attracting more people, more families to town in the future. It's another option that families have, that they can have their children educated in the French language as they choose. We are objecting. I'm objecting to the location and the communication that we've been getting from North Bay. I've been very upset with the communication has downplayed the objections. I feel has skirted the issues. And the letter that we received from the chair of the French Public School Board is less than conciliatory. It was rather threatening with litigation, and I think that's bold and arrogant on their part, and it's not the way to come into town hoping that they'll be embraced with open arms. So I'm very, very much against this. I would very much like to see Canadore continue as it was intended to for the case of adult education and special skills training. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. I looked at the report that was provided, and I thank Mr. Elby for doing his best to try to relate both sides of the coin, shall we say. I have some concerns. The college, I remember being on council, there were some offers that certainly the town of Parry Sound made in our encouragement for this adult college to come to Parry Sound. And certainly the idea that local people that need college education would be able to have this service right here in this community. And there are needs in this community, just as we even heard, or may have heard, in respect to housing. When you look at community, you look at college, you look at housing, you look at the whole big picture. And the whole big picture says to me a community college means community with adults, with education being provided for them, and whatever needs are required and needed in this community hopefully are being addressed. We know we have long-term care facilities here. We have a PSW program. We know there's a great need for that. So there's an example there. We know there's a need for trades. So when I see what's being presented here, where when that college was built, it certainly was my understanding it would be providing services for the needs of adults. So to try now to put young children into that environment where it's going to be basically the children being integrated throughout that college, and I have gone up to the college within the last few weeks to take a look at things again, and I would find it very difficult to see how you could put children just in one area and segregate them from the rest of that college. We also have to, I think, look at, it's just a reality. When people as adults are trying to get further education, some of those people have made mistakes in life, and some of them, as a result of the court system, they're trying to get an education, but they may have be under a sex offender registry where they are not allowed to be in areas where there are young children. So therefore, we're trying to encourage people to change, to be rehabilitated, to be reproductive, sorry, not reproductive, I guess that would help out too, but to be productive in our society. And I think that if this was to happen, this again will have an impact. Not only, even if it went through, it's going to have an impact on the person who is trying to make changes in their life, because they won't be going to the college. And hopefully it would not happen, but in the event that something negative did happen, the impact on the college, the individual, the victim, the perpetrator, anybody in the area, there would be serious impact. And I certainly don't think it would be very good marketing of our community. I looked at the official plan, so when I make those last two comments, I am referring to, in the official plan, it said, A, the proposed use is of a temporary nature that can cease without undue hardship. Well, I think there would be hardship for those people who are adults that are trying to get an education. And now to have less, I just believe if you have only part of a college being used for adults, there's going to be less programs available. So I think that that would be a hardship for somebody who cannot afford to go to Barrie or able to stay at some relative's place in another community. So I really have concerns about that. The other thing that I would say is, and I cannot verify it because I have not been up there in the last 2 days, but certainly there are rumors in the community, whether or not things are happening and changes are already happening, I don't know. But I'm really hoping that council looks at how important this decision is. This was an adult college, and I think it has adult needs. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borneman.
Nothing to add to that, but in this instance, I'm going to ask that we have a recorded vote, Your Worship.
Sure. Anything further? Any further comments? No? Councillor McCann?
Thank you. I'm just kind of a little curious because the news, of course, is that the French School Board has been moving computers and servers and such in, and they've perhaps maybe they thought it prudent to be ready for the school year. But I thought, given the nature and the temperature of this whole thing, I thought that was a move that was something that was impositioning the people who were already there and wasting their time and their efforts there. I thought that was a little bit of an arrogant move as well.
Councillor Horn.
I don't know what the answer to this is, and maybe Mr. Harris says, in terms of the outcome of the vote, if it goes one way or the other, what responsibility does the town have to enforce the acceptance or the decline of the vote?
Perhaps I'll ask Mr. Elgin if he could comment on that.
Sorry, do you mean what is the outcome of tonight's meeting if you accept it? If it was declined tonight, the use would not be permitted in the school, and the applicant would have the right to appeal that decision to the LPAT. And if it's approved, same thing, anyone who submitted comments or spoken opposition could also appeal the decision to the LPAT.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Anything further? No. Ms. Johnson, can you?
So we're calling for a recorded vote. I'll take it in alphabetical order. Councillor Backman?
No.
No. Councillor Borneman?
No.
No. Councillor Burden?
No.
No. Councillor Horn?
No.
No. Councillor Keith?
No.
Councillor McCann?
No.
Mayor McGarvey?
Nope. So it's unanimous.
Unanimous, defeated.
Okay. We'll see what happens now. Too many of these there. So do I sign this one? Like just say it's defeated?
No, I don't sign.
No. Okay. I just marked it as defeated.
It's okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. We'll go to. We'll let everyone leave that wants to leave, and then we'll. Okay. All right. So, I think we've got things quieted down a little bit here now. Just before we go to the council's reports, which I'll start with Councillor Horn tonight, since he was away at the last meeting. I would like to apologize to council and staff if my tone was a little off at the last meeting, abrupt and short. I had found out that my wife had just gone into surgery, and I was stressed and not knowing what all was going on, and you know, sometimes one just needs to walk away. Anyway, Councillor Keith.
I'm going to say, Mr. Mayor, we're all human, and I think we can all understand.
All right, thank you. So, Councillor Horn, you're going to begin the show tonight.
Thanks. Apparently I was away last council meeting. Thank you for pointing that out. I was on vacation, continue to be on vacation, and as such, I didn't have any meetings scheduled except for the planning board meeting, which I did miss because I was on vacation. So I hope to enjoy the rest of this week on vacation. And I am heading to the Association Municipality of Ontario Conference in Ottawa this weekend till next Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that. The agenda looks amazing. The speakers look fantastic, and looking to gain more knowledge to help improve services for taxpayers. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, staff, and public. Committee developments, since I was last at council meeting, planning board, 4 applications that were approved. Financial situation appears to be stable. The Community Policing Advisory Committee, basically I have to say West Parry Sound and of course Parry Sound itself. The positive is that violent crimes, property, drug crimes, all are down, even traffic offenses for the same quarter in comparison to last year. In that same quarter, there were some emergency planning services. The foot patrol hours were down a bit. There was a bike rodeo in June time at St. Peter's. 15, in respect to drugs, for quarter 2, there were 15 seizures in respect to cocaine, meth, and also some medication. The one concern, though, I do have, and how we get this taken care of, if not by taking another step and making it more financially responsible for people who do this, but increase in 911 calls. 88% of those calls were unfounded. Now, it is beyond me why a person cannot turn their cell phone off. It is just beyond me. But in any event, I really think that if this continues, that maybe there is another alternative, that if the calls are unfounded like that, you pay a fee. And sometimes for some people, when you have to pay a fee out of your pocket, it's surprising how you stop doing things. Anyways, moving along from there, I attended Art and Park Saturday, also the waterfront market. I would also say that the downtown, I went downtown for their craft fair, and it was really sad to see the Downtown Business Association having to tolerate and do their best to hope that the rain would stay away. Unfortunately, it didn't, and so therefore I think it was awful unfortunate that the numbers would definitely have to be down. I also attended, and I have to say respectfully, the wake for Mayor Chris Armstrong, and that is really a sad thing, his passing. He certainly contributed to the community and to the region, and I will personally miss him. When he was on the planning board the previous term, because he was always being very fiscally accountable, asking questions, and he had a nice little smile with a dry sense of humor, so that will be missed. And last thing would be to say that I was involved in the selection of the Town Scholarship Award, and that was my report. Thank you.
Councillor Burden, the microphone is off, sorry.
Okay, very brief. On Wednesday, July the 17th, I attended the regular meeting of the Downtown Business Association. They voiced several concerns of regarding sidewalk and street cleaning and public safety in the downtown area and policing the downtown. All of these concerns have been communicated to the mayor and council in writing and will be discussed and addressed in the near future. I will also be attending the AMO conference in Ottawa this weekend, and I'm looking forward to that more as a learning experience for me. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. On July 31st, I attended a meeting of the Parry Sound District Municipal Association in sunny downtown Sundridge. Fall meeting is scheduled for September 27th at the Carling Community Center. In my short time on this board, I've learned that it's been in operation for over 80 years. We discussed many of the same topics that find their way to this table: rural internet service, the environment, funding from senior levels of government, etc. But we have next to no budget and no staff. As a result, in my view, we have no means of dealing with any of these issues firsthand, and the area continues to fall behind. As a result, we act strictly as a lobbying group and trying to provide information to our membership at this time. And until the funding changes, until there's a commitment from communities to do that, I expect more of the same. On August 6th, the Airport Commission met. Our construction project is well underway and moving ahead quite well. You probably noticed the sign has been replaced, a new, sturdier model than what Mother Nature took down last winter. We've had a very busy summer, terrific number of aircraft visiting the facility, and a much broader array of types and models of aircraft coming than not very many years ago. This year's fly-in is scheduled for September 7th. The good news is I'm not available in the barbecue pit, so the food should probably increase in quality, and I'm hoping that everyone else will be able to get out and take advantage of that. I'm sure it was just an oversight, but I'd also encourage folks to get downtown this Saturday for the annual auto show. It's always well attended. Hopefully Mother Nature is more cooperative than at their last event. And that's my report for this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and staff and people watching here in the gallery and at home. Mr. Mayor, I'm the one man left standing. I'm going to have to choose your favorite card this Saturday at the show that Councillor Borneman had just mentioned. What do you like to drive?
Oh, pick whatever you want.
Okay. I don't think they'll give me the key, so I probably won't go too far.
They
with
don't.
it. Thursday, July 25th, I attended the West Parry Sound District Museum monthly board meeting. The E. Roy Smith gallery floor is being installed. You'll recall that we're putting in a model train station there, and so that is all coming together. There's a lot of work. A great deal of thanks goes towards several who volunteered their time, and the museum is holding a volunteer barbecue appreciation night this month to say thank you. Paul, maybe there's a job there for you if you make hamburgers. A number of housekeeping items, accepting our manager and treasurer report, governance and financial policy reviews, insurance coverage for volunteers. This seemed to be the summer to say goodbye to people. Councillor Keith had mentioned Chris Armstrong. I'd like to express condolences to the Murch family on the passing of Caroline Murch, or Caroline, I'm sorry. She passed away July 28th. Our sympathies to Cam and Carl, Aaron, Kristen, and their families. Funeral services were last Friday. She's a retired teacher from Victory School, very, very active in the community, and she indeed will be missed. And also, goodbyes, a fond farewell to Wayne and Angie Cormier. They pulled up stakes for the final time this past weekend, heading to Nova Scotia. They arrived here in 1969. Wayne founded Cormier Adjusting Services Limited. You know, when the phone rings and it's Wayne Cormier calling to say he needs your help, you can't refuse. Wayne would never ask you to do something that he wouldn't do himself. But you just know that when you jump on his bandwagon, you're in for an exciting ride. His enthusiasm, contagious. His positive attitude is certainly that as well. And his overall vision is something that you want to buy into. Wayne was involved with Big Brothers, Canada College, REDAC, an advocate for the Parry Sound Industrial Park, former town councillor. His last big project was bringing the Flying Fathers to town as a fundraiser for 3 major charities. And so it's not often that you run into people like Wayne and his wife too, who was generous in sharing Wayne with the community. Angie as well was involved in the community and doing her things as well. We wish them all the best in Nova Scotia, and they indeed will be missed. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Backman.
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a busy time with only having one meeting this month. Since our last meeting, I've attended several markets. The Tuesday market on July 20th, I attended the Saturday waterfront market and was fortunate to be in town on the Sunday of the Art in the Park and to attend that again. On August 1st, I joined the Rotary Club president and incoming president to learn more about their strategic plan that they will be working on in the fall. As well, I attended and saw Councillor Keith at the Downtown Georgian Bay Crafts show. As she stated, it was unfortunate that the rain did pour, but it looked during the time when the street was active, everybody was having a great time. On August 7th, I toured the Town of Parry Sound's wastewater treatment plant, and the McFarland Street transfer station. I'd like to thank Peter Brown for setting that up for me. And as well, I will be next week attending the AMO conference, and I'm ecstatic to go ahead and learn more about many great ideas and that I can bring back to the Town of Parry Sound. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, staff, and public. July 25th, I was in Toronto for an AMO executive meeting. July 31st and August 1st, I was in Toronto again for AMO meetings and meetings at Queen's Park. August 8th, I attended the opening of the digital lab at the DSAB office on Church Street. In attendance was our MPP Norm Miller, DSAB Chair Rick Zanussi, CAO Joe Bradbury, and many of the DSAB staff. The digital lab will allow people to look for jobs, upgrade their education, or write a resume at no cost, an opportunity for people to better themselves and create more opportunity in their lives. I certainly have to thank the DSAB staff for all their work in putting this lab together. Basically, it's a series of computers that has access to the internet so that people can look for look up sites for jobs and education. I have to wish Wayne and Angie Cormier safe travels and in their move back to the East Coast. I was able to sit with Wayne last week and have a chat before they did leave, and certainly thanked him for his commitment to the Parry Sound and area. I would like to also send my condolences to the Armstrong family in the passing of Chris. I had the privilege of knowing Chris for many years, and I will say that you always knew where you stood with him, and he was never shy about sharing his opinion, which I certainly appreciated. And also my condolences to the Murch family as well. So that's my one more thing. On July 30th, the town was notified that we received a donation of almost $13,000 from the estate of Katharina Wheatley, otherwise known as Kay, towards the Charles W. Stockey Center for the Performing Arts. Miss Wheatley was a strong supporter of the Stockey Center and could be found frequently at performances, films, and events there. The money has been put into the Stockey Center Reserve for future dedicated use. So, okay. On with. Oh yeah, we have two items.
It's not on the agenda, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Just going to flip my screen back here. So may I have a mover and seconder for this direction, please? Councillor Keith, Councillor McCann. The council support the CAO continuing his role on the CAO Wellness Center and Pool Committee. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Oops. Okay. Now this one. The next is 7.2, moved by Councillor Burden, seconded by Councillor Borneman. The bylaw number 2019-6947, being a bylaw that authorized the execution of an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, is represented by the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans for the divestiture of the Big Sound Marina, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman and seconded by Councillor Burden that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Councillor Borneman.
I'm wondering if it's appropriate that I think in this instance Chief Thompson give the public Coles Notes version of what we're up to here.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Big Sound Marina is owned in two parts. The first part, the land portion, is already owned by the town. The second part, the water lot, is previously owned by the federal government. And we operate the Big Sound Marina out of that, and through that we pay the Crown levies each year. Over the past number of years, the federal government has been divesting itself or getting out of the business of running pleasure craft harbors, and has long been in talks with the town, asking or requesting, negotiating with the town to take over the water lot portion of the Big Sound Marina. So this has been a long, tortuous process, and has finally come full circle and is now finished with the federal government divesting that property to the town. The town receives some funding from the government by taking over the property for the infrastructure that's going to need repairs in the upcoming years. And the town will be taking full responsibility for both the marina proper on the grounds as well as the water lot in the future.
Good, thank you. Anything else? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Item 8.1, moved by Councillor Burden, second by Councillor McCann. Whereas years of research confirms the benefits of high-quality child care for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical development and later life outcomes, and whereas child care promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of parents and the broader community by supporting quality life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their community. And whereas trained and knowledgeable early childhood educators and child care staff are the key to quality in early learning and child care programs and champions for children. Therefore, be it resolved that October 24th, 2019 be designated the 19th Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in recognition of the education, dedication, and commitment of child care workers to children, their families, and the quality of life of the community. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Item 9.1, moved by Councillor Burden and seconded by Councillor Borneman, that upon the recommendation of the Scholarship Committee, Council award the 2019 scholarship to Nicole Babcock Ritchie in the amount of $500. Ms. Babcock Ritchie is currently attending Queen's University School of Kinesiology and Health Studies and has held progressively more responsible leadership positions since she began working, including manager of Scoop Deck Ice Cream Shop at Georgian Bay Airways and the shift manager of the Flight Deck Grill. She's also found time to volunteer within the community, and examples of her volunteer interest include team coach with the Georgian Jumpers competitive team coach for the Georgian Jumpers recreational team, Georgian Nordic Outdoor Activity Center, Jackrabbit program coach, Parry Sound High School Student Council, and Parry Sound High School Athletic Association. So, she's a busy lady. Any discussion? So, yeah, it was that upon the recommendation of the Scholarship Committee, Council award the 2019 scholarship to Nicole Babcock Ritchie in the amount of $500. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, let's see. I need a mover and seconder for the direction. Councillor Bachman and Councillor Keith. And that staff send the invitation to the municipality of McDougall and Seguin to participate in the area parks and recreational master plan or update per Schedule A. Now, Councillor Bachman has also given prior notice of interest in amending the motion to the following. That the invitation to the municipality of McDougall and Seguin Township to participate in the update of parks master plan be extended to the other 4 municipalities in West Parry Sound and to the First Nation communities of Wasauksing and Shawanaga. Okay. So I'm going to go with the first one, and we can, I think probably the easiest way is to defeat that one and then move to the second one. Okay? So all in favor of the first one? Okay.
This is actually an amendment.
Yeah, but actually there are 2 directions. So we're better to just get rid of the one direction?
Because it's extended to the other 4.
Yeah, the invitation to these plus extended to the 4 others.
Right, so we would approve that.
Approve them both?
Yes, because
this one is extending to the other four. If you defeat that one, it's as though it's only going to the four.
Oh. All right. So,
You can,
yeah.
you can vote on this to amend it and then vote on
Yeah.
all of it.
Can I get clarification though for the next meeting? And that would be that, my understanding with directions is that you can make it, I mean, it's good to know that we've got this coming, but I was always told before you didn't need a mover and second to amend a direction because it was just direction. So if we can clarify that so that we know that for the next time, because that's all we've ever done in the past lately, is just add that to it. So if for next time, if we can just make sure, it'll make things a little easier, because it's not an actual resolution. Okay. So then I guess, okay, so all in favor of the first direction, we need to support it. Okay? That's carried. All in favor of the second direction. And that's carried, because it was moved by Councillor Bachman and seconded by Councillor Borneman. Okay. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, that's good. We got another one? Oh. Okay. Let's see. Item 913. I need a mover and seconder for the next direction. It's the Wi-Fi. Councillor Bachman and Horn. The council directs staff to contact ViaNet and have the public Wi-Fi hours in Market Square Park amended to be available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Discussion. All in favor? That's carried. Good. Item 914, moved by Councillor Burden and seconded by Councillor Borneman. The council approved the combined memorial bench and tree program per Schedule A. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. McNamara, please. Thank you, Ms. McNamara. I can see there was a lot of work done in preparing this for council, but I have a query. In my travels, I know that I have seen in some countries, in some communities, where there is a memorial bench, more than one person's name actually would be on that bench. When I read this material here, it sounds like there would only be one plaque on one bench. When I read all the details of the bylaw, I didn't see what I'm thinking. Could you clarify for me, please?
Through your worship, thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Keith. In all reality, the most recent memorial bench that we did had 3 names that were dedicated on it. They were all contained on one plaque. As long as all the information can be contained on one plaque that fits the standard that we're using moving forward, not a problem to have more than one name on the plaque.
Thank you, but that's not quite what I'm saying. What I am saying is, what I have seen would be the plaque, for example, would be the donation, would be from the one person, say, is Susie Q. Now, another person who's not related is Joe Blow. And so there'd be 3 different names, and that's still at one bench. There's the donation ends up being, for one bench, would actually be 3 times the amount of money because there's 3 plaques. And is that something that is built in here? Because I don't see that here. Could you clarify?
Through your worship, that is not something that's built in here. One plaque per one bench, one fee for one bench. The cost is based on a cost recovery basis. It's not for the municipality to make money on.
Okay. Anything further? Oh, Councillor Bachman.
Thank you, April, for your report. That was, I really enjoyed reading it. One of the things that I've seen and read online is that some parks will also include picnic tables into their program of commemorative program. And I'm just wondering if that is something that we would ever consider or has been considered.
Through your worship, that wasn't in the scope of this project. Moving forward, that's something that staff could look into.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anything further? No? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that Resolution 2018-142, appointing individuals to various boards and committees, be amended by ratifying Parry Sound Public Library Board appointments of Tom Lundy, representing the Township of the Archipelago, Susan Murphy, representing the Township of Carling, Lynn Gregory, representing the Municipality of McDougall, and that Colleen O'Hara be appointed as a member at large instead of representing the town of Parry Sound, and that Resolution 28-143, appointing members of council and staff to various boards and committees, be amended by removing Dave Thompson from the Parry Sound District Emergency Medical Services Advisory Committee, as Mr. Thompson is a staff resource person, not a committee member. Discussion? Councillor McCann, then Councillor Borneman.
Thank you. I know that Mr. Lundy is our new chair at the Parry Sound Public Library Board, and I did read the background information. I'm not sure if I missed something. Why once again are we doing this? Maybe for the benefit of the public as well as mine. that this has come about.
Jonathan?
Through your worship, this is a matter of form of, because the Parry Sound Public Library Board, Parry Sound, we are to ratify the appointments that are made by other municipalities. So while this was undertaken for this particular item, there was a couple other issues for correction of appointments as well. One other thing, the town of Parry Sound had appointed in excess of the maximum number per the terms of reference. So one of the members agreed to sit at large, and that's Colleen O'Hara.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Borneman.
With respect to removing Chief Thompson from the EMS Advisory Committee, does that entitle us to another appointee or no?
No, Chief Thompson used to be Seguin's representative on the emergency medical services, like land ambulance committee. Remember? And so maybe he just didn't get stricken off from that or whatever. So that might be why, I don't know, but he is our director for that particular committee, so he is a staff person. Okay. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Direction, mover and seconder. Councillor Horn, Councillor Keith. That the report we received for information purposes. That has to do with the approval of the official plan amendments. Discussion. Mr. Harris, do you want to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought it was important to let the public know that the town has received this exemption, because until this exemption was received, any amendments to the town's official plan required provincial approval. That provincial approval could take up to, and perhaps longer than, 6 months. So if you've got to develop an application requiring an official plan amendment, that's a huge delay and a huge time constraint. So with this, with the exemption from having to go to the province, that's going to shorten the time frames for approving development. It can all be done by this council, and speed up applications and people interested in doing business in the Parry Sound. The mayor and council have been working for the last couple of years on this initiative, and finally, the province has granted that exemption, which took effect on July 1st of this year.
Councillor McCann.
So I was going to ask Mr. Harris for an explanation as well. So does this mean that the OMB exists no longer? Then what, or is it they just have they've just been relieved of that particular mandate?
Through the mayor, this doesn't have to do with the OMB. It just means applications like the one we heard earlier this evening for the YMCA property required an official plan amendment. That no longer needs to go to the province for approval. Council can deal with it. Yeah. Now, applicants can, or people opposed to it, can still appeal it to the OMB. That process is still there, that opportunity.
Okay, actually, I just remembered I was confused with something, but right. Okay,
we're good? Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything further? No? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, so item 941, moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound authorize staff to develop a request for design build services in conjunction with Tatham Engineering for the replacement of the floating breakwater at Dock C at Big Sound Marina, and further that staff release an RFP for the replacement of the floating breakwater and Dock C as a design build project. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Bachmann, seconded by Councillor Horn, whereas the Province of Ontario, through the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, has posted a discussion paper entitled Reducing Litter and Waste in Our Communities, and whereas producer responsibility has not been adequately addressed by the Province of Ontario, and whereas a successful deposit return program for single-use plastic, aluminum, and metal drink containers has been in existence in other provinces in Canada, including Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and British Columbia. And whereas these successful programs have eliminated many of these containers from our natural environment. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound endorses the Corporation of the Town of Halton Hills Resolution 2019-041, calling upon the Province of Ontario through the discussion paper entitled Reducing Litter and Waste in Our Communities to review and implement a deposit return program for all single-use plastic, aluminum, and metal drink containers, and further that the Province of Ontario review current producer requirements and look for extended producer responsibility for all packaging, and further that a copy of this motion sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all municipalities in the Province of Ontario. So, I will clarify some of this. The AMO has been working on the producer responsibility for many, many years. The province, through the Ministry of Environment, set up David Lindsay as doing a follow-up and make recommendations based on all the work that's been done. And David Lindsay did come out last week with his recommendation to the provincial government, and we are certainly hoping that they will follow Mr. Lindsay's recommendations to go towards full producer responsibility. So I mean this is okay, but there has been a number of changes since this resolution was first drafted by Halton Hills, so or wherever it was. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yes, and that was passed July 8th by them, but it has been changed. There has been progress made, significant progress since then. So, Councillor Keith, you were going to...
And I think that's really great to hear that there's been further development since then. I think it just shows, for example, in the town of Parry Sound, as was mentioned earlier, about Georgian Bay Forever helping with Champlain dock there, the cleanup. When I read this and asked that it be added to the agenda, I was not aware of the information that you've presented there. But I do also just want to provide a piece of information for just to say again, I think it's time that all communities in the province got on board in these areas, because I think to myself, about 5 years ago, I was over in Scandinavia, and I can assure you way back then, 5 years ago, I found it very interesting when people were going into grocery stores with big bags, and me being a little curious, shall we say, would ask, what are you doing? And you would see them open the bags. They would put these plastic bottles, glass bottles, metal containers, all through this circular sort of vacuum machine. And then in a minute, they would get a chit, and they would use that chit to be able to buy groceries in that store. And I thought, what a wonderful way, because most people are about the same. If they can get that immediate gratification, feel they're getting money back right away, they use it. So I think that this, again, just says we need to get on board for being concerned about our environment.
I mean, council can do what it wants, but I'm just wondering if we don't draft our own resolution incorporating some of the new progress that has been made and supporting some of that, and then with the idea of the deposit return be added on with that, because some of this is old information, and we could provide a much better updated resolution that would support what's going on with trying to get something like this in place. I mean, we could do it at the next meeting in September.
I think that would be great if we did it at the next meeting in September and it be ours. I think that would be really great. We could defeat this and move on to the next meeting. Thank you.
Either that or we just postpone this to have it amended, one or the other. We can defeat it as well, and have, you can make direction afterwards, then to have it come back. Okay? All right. Councilor McCann.
Actually, I see more revenue for Friends of Belvedere. We can pick up plastic bottles now. But seriously, though, if you can get 5 cents or 10 cents back on a bottle, I see more people picking them up along the trails and whatnot because, wow, there's some money. So we win all around.
Okay. So all in favor? Well, we're gonna bring a new one back. There'll be direction right after. Okay, so all opposed? Okay, it's defeated. Councillor Keith.
Then I would be asking for the direction of some of the information that's presented in this resolution, along with information gathered from AMO. We brought back to the next council meeting in September.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also including that David Lindsay's report
Yes,
to the
yes, that's
provincial
what
government.
I'm referring to
Okay.
in respect to AMO.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yep, okay, all right. Any discussion on that direction? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith. Be it resolved, the Council Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound, accepting the facts and sentiments expressed in the City of Stratford's resolution attached to Schedule A regarding opposition to changes in the 2019 provincial budget and planning, does hereby request a meeting with MPP Norm Miller, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark, and other related ministries on the effects of downloading onto municipal governments, and that this resolution look forward to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, to initiating municipality of City of Stratford and all other municipalities in Ontario. Okay. Discussion. Councilor Borneman.
Well, just the way the province undertook, you know, there was some downloading suggested by them with respect to EMS and other issues after budgets had been passed without consultation. They later rescinded those moves, but we know those and others will in all likelihood be coming in the next year. So I just think that there needs to be some kind of dialogue in order that not be repeated in 2020 and beyond, that we know where we stand going in so we can budget appropriately.
I can't say a whole lot, but I do know a whole lot more. So unfortunately, I can't tell you. If you were at the AMO conference, then when the premier speaks. Yeah. I'd prefer that. The whole thing is sometimes, you get tied into these resolutions and you end up, there's well-intentioned behind this, but sometimes they get to us late, and then all of a sudden there's something new that happens to come along, and then all of a sudden you don't want to have yourself tagged onto something that might have a better outlook, right? So, okay. All right, all in favor? That's carried. Oh, seconder? Councillor Bachman seconds it. Okay. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2019-6948 being a bylaw to execute an agreement with Nipissing Parry Sound Student Transportation Services for the provision of a school bus transfer site at Kinsman Park be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor McCann, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Oh. Pass that one down.
Thank you. This is passing of bylaw number 2019-6950, and it was moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Bachman, that the bylaw number 2019-6950 being a bylaw to renew a lease with Home Hardware Stores Limited until December 31st, 2029 for lands known as the Rotary Algonquin Regiment Fitness Trail and town-owned lands be considered read a first time. Are all members in favor of having the second and third readings? Any discussion? Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Algie, this agreement's been going on for a good number of years. Eventually, properties change hands and uses. That's a key part of the fitness trail. Is there any opportunity here to undertake some sort of land swap with Mr. McNabb so as to permanently change the titles on these properties?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, if given direction, staff could bring that request to Home Hardware. If this was engaged, we have until December before this needs to be signed, but often land swaps can be a much longer process, so it might be best to proceed along both courses at the same time.
Can I make that recommendation, Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor?
So we'll pass this and then add that as direction. Okay. That the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time. All in favor? Thank you. Passed, signed, and sealed. And the direction?
Staff be directed to approach the property owner with respect to a formal land swap with respect to these properties.
Seconder, Councillor McCann. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed. Thanks, everyone. Okay, thanks. All yours. We're done. Thank you. Everybody go. Just this one.
Just the one?
Confirming.
Yep.
You should have backed.
Confirming that we can go home. So moved by Councillor Burden, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2019-6951, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Burden, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? And that's carried. So, prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next regular meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. and will be held in the council chambers, top floor of 52 Seguin Street. Public access to the building is off Gibson Street. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Regular and special meetings are now live streamed. Please check news and public notices on our website at www.parrysound.ca for instructions to watch live or see earlier council meetings. Agendas, changes to the council meeting schedule, and notices of special council meetings will be posted on the town's website at www.parrysound.ca under news and public notices prior to a council meeting. The public is able to view an electronic copy of the complete agenda with attachments on the town's website. Just search council calendar and the date of the meeting. Should you wish to receive a combined agenda via email, you may make that request on our website or contact the clerk at the municipal office. The minutes of the council meetings will be posted within 2 days after the council meeting on the town's website and on the bulletin board located in the municipal office entrance. Your TV will continue to air the regular Parry Sound Council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. For Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Hey, you're still leaving today? So, you've got a triple X.
I saw that.
T-shirt. Yeah, I don't know if he's a triple X, but they didn't have a double.
Well, he's a big guy.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know,
and he'll have a shirt on. He'll probably put it over top of it. So
that would be cool if he's up for that.
Well, I'm supposed to be with the Prime Minister tomorrow.
With Justin?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm going to try and get.
What? Well, I've got a couple T-shirts. What size do you think he is? I don't need a red one.
He's not as big as me. You got a green one?
Okay. I'll run down.
I would say if you had a large one, it would probably be fine, and that way you can put.
Is that a typo?
Highway 400 southbound.
Or northbound. Getting authorization. 60 kilometers. Never had a destination website on the highway.
Sorry, what? Can we send it to a highway? Preview of our billboard.
So this is.
Oh.
Never heard of her.
Yeah. Who's doing that? You are? Oh. Cool.
Oh.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh.
So 60
I know
kilometers.
that's not the case here,
That's,
but, you know,
Honey
and
Harbor?
that's not the irritating.
Port Severn.
So you know where, just a little, you know where the old Georgian Bay Airways is? It shares with the KOA.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Taking that spot.
Okay.
And then right after that is CMS. but 101 things.
Yeah.
Forget the 20 places. We got 120 plus.
Excellent. The color, this is
Yeah.
stuff
Well,
makes people.
yeah.
I'll give you those.
Now,
I want to do a brand
what do you,
Okay. And then somewhere you got the minutes, I bet, right?
Yes, that's right, too.
Oh, I saw that, okay. That made it that changed my mind. I mean,
No, but when it first came out, all the publicity on it was, well, we're gonna boycott anybody who uses it, right?
Huh?
The electronic sign, the blip.
Oh, yeah.
Is I looked in Boston to see, what the closest blip was to Boston, because I thought the BOC or the BOHF could put a, from Parry Center, but the closest one is in Springfield, and it's an hour away, I guess, from Boston.
So is this going on?
No,
This is
no, I
going.
was just asking what she had heard about those electronic signs.
Oh, I'd heard people were trying to boycott anybody that put one up there.
I find them,
3 seconds is enough.
I find them just invasive too.
No, this is, we have it for 3 years. And, this one, I'm getting that's why I took it. So it's through my partnership.
Yep.
This is costing me about $1,300. So they're just doing a partnership with me.
Who is?
Explorers at Sugar Falls, they have.
Yep.
And we'll go with partnership next month, this one.
Yep.
And,
Now, this agreement, what's the bylaw? I mean, how do you, like, the bylaws